SNAP benefits are back and most people should have them already, but if you don't, let me explain why. Even though the government is back open, it is up to the state to start rolling out the food stamps. So basically, the state can choose whether to roll it out over time, and states like Florida are doing exactly that. Most states, though, distributed it between 24 to 48 hours, even 72 hours in some cases, once the government reopened. If you have any questions about when you're going to receive your EBT, you can easily just check out the state's EBT app and stay up to date with everything that's going on. By the way, if you're seeing me for the first time, hi, my name is Brianna. I am an Afro-Latina Emmy Award-winning news anchor, and I help you navigate through this crazy world together, from news headlines to everyday life and everything in between. Follow me for more content like this.
If you have to use SNAP benefits, you should get a job. And if you have a job that doesn't pay enough, you should get a better job. And if you don't qualify for a better job, you should get a college degree. But don't complain about your student loan debt and don't expect any kind of student loan forgiveness. And after all of that, if you still have to be on government assistance, you should always be thinking about how poor you are, and you should look poor, and you should act poor, and you should never get anything that brings you a single moment of joy, because you don't deserve dignity because you're poor. But I can't wait this Christmas season to do my angel tree and provide Christmas for a child in need.
So there's a conversation happening about donating food to people regardless of how they voted. I think it's different when you have a different racial perspective. So for example, I, as a Black woman, I am not openly feeding MAGA people. I'm just not. I can't. They use racial slurs. They voted the way that they voted, with the intent of cruelty and racism, and I personally am not going to open my door and start feeding people. Now, what I am doing is making a series called Poor But Not Starving, and that series is for anybody who does not know how to feed themselves while they are poor in order to keep themselves from starving. That's what it is. We can be poor, but we're not starving to death. And I don't have a problem with anybody using these recipes. They're not even mine from the jump. Like, these are recipes that I've gotten. They're just really inexpensive. But if you want to be that person who goes out and feeds anybody, by all means. I'm not saying that they don't deserve to eat. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying I personally am not going to be opening my door in my pantry to feed any and everybody who is voting for me to be re-enslaved. When it comes to a racial perspective, that also has to be considered, because a lot of people who are critiquing the people who are saying that they are going to feed any and everybody who needs food, I don't think that they're Black. I think a lot of those people are white. And that's just the fact of the matter. Black people are keeping their heads down, minding their business, doing what we need to do. And, it is what it is. We know how to survive. I'm teaching you some things on how to survive because that's just something that I can do without spending a lot of money. These are groceries that I'm going to be buying anyway, or have already bought. But yeah, just a little food for thought. Did I give you any food for thought? Did I? I don't think I did. I think I just rambled. That's fine too. Whatever.
Everyone will now have to reapply for SNAP benefits after claiming rampant fraud. That's according to the head of the USDA, U.S. Department of Agriculture. So just because the government is opened back up and people are starting to receive their SNAP benefits, there's another new provision that's going into place, which is that everybody has to reapply for their benefits because they claim so much fraud is going on that they want to weed out the fraudsters. I don't have a problem with that. What I do have a problem with is that it's really more of an underhanded move to make it difficult for people to apply for the benefits that they actually need. So Agriculture Secretary Brooks Rollins alleged that fraud was running rampant around the embattled Supplement Nutrition Assistance Program, otherwise known as SNAP. The thing is, state SNAP administrators already require those receiving benefits to recertify their information as often as 6 months. This is so those people receiving the benefits will update their income and personal information. So if it changes, they might not be eligible for the benefit. And despite the regular recertification process, Rollins claims the program was, quote, corrupt, adding that 120 Americans had been recently arrested for committing SNAP fraud. 120 out of all the people in the program? So you're going to punish everyone in the program because you managed to find 120 people committing fraud against the SNAP program? Again, get rid of the fraudsters, but don't make it difficult for people to receive their SNAP benefits. Once they have applied and they're approved, let them update. But making people reapply, that's just a scam. They're trying to make it difficult for people to receive SNAP benefits.
Look, y'all, the USDA under the Trump administration just dropped something wild. They want millions of people on SNAP, yes, food stamp benefits, to reapply to prove they need the help. Because apparently being broke once isn't enough. Now you got to renew your poverty subscription. They're saying this is all about cracking down on fraud. Talking about dead people still getting benefits and shady retailers gaming the system. Meanwhile, most folks are just out here getting literally $6 a day. $6, that's not fraud. That's a mother-loving coupon, baby. And critics are calling this whole move unnecessary because SNAP already makes people recertify every few months anyway. So this new prove you still need food paperwork feels like somebody just wanted to press the chaos button. You feel me? But here's the reality, y'all. Just a quick reminder. More than 40 million Americans rely on SNAP. Yeah, that's families. That's seniors, single parents, people working 2 mother-loving jobs, all real people. And when the government throws hurdles into the mix, even a little hurdle can knock somebody off the system completely. So here it is, guys. If you are on SNAP, keep your paperwork tight. If you're not, remember, this still affects your neighbors, your coworkers, and that kid right down the street. When the safety net gets weaker, everybody feels it, okay? But, let me know what you think on this. Is this legit fraud prevention or, I don't know, just another hoop people got to jump through while just trying to eat?
The only way you should be able to get food stamps is if you apply in person with a photo ID and you take a drug test. Ooh, I bet you felt so smart when you came up with that. Please tell me more. Well, if they applied in person, we could avoid all of the fraud. There's really not that much fraud, but okay. If they had a photo ID, we could ensure that it's actually being issued to the correct person. There are already steps in place to ensure that, but fine. And lastly, we don't need to be giving addicts free money. They can go get themselves clean, figure their own stuff out, and then we can help them. So first and foremost, you think it's okay for those struggling in active addiction who literally die of starvation. Well, no, I didn't actually say. And you do realize that many homeless people and people struggling who are living in active addiction are veterans who served our country. Okay, well that's a different, so you're okay with veterans literally starving? No, but like support our troops, right? I'm just saying we need to know where the money is going. But also, let's talk about the many people who benefit from food stamps who aren't the people who hold the actual card. What do you mean? I mean people who are retired, elderly people who can no longer work, and children. Children who rely on their parents' SNAP benefits to feed them. Well, I didn't. So you think because a child's parent is struggling with addiction, they deserve to starve as well? I'm not sure I thought this through. No shit.
I grew up on SNAP benefits my entire life. And once I got to college, the only reason I was able to eat was because I had SNAP benefits. SNAP benefits were the reason why I was fed throughout school so I could focus. I ended up graduating top of my class. I went to a good university. I'm 32 now and I have my own family and my own daughter, and I'm no longer on SNAP benefits. But 42 million people are still on SNAP benefits, and 16 million of those are children. So here are some things that I'm going to be doing in the immediate future to assist with all the people who are losing SNAP benefits. I will be donating to my local food bank. At Halloween, I'm going to be setting out some dried food for kids to pick up if they so choose, instead of candy, granola bar, ramen, mac and cheese. If they want it, they can take it. And if any of my followers have personally been impacted by these SNAP benefits, I would like to pick a few to just show some love. Any money made through this video is going to be donated, and I just hope that no child goes hungry through what's happening in our government.
Did y'all see the video of the man saying that white people were mad because they thought SNAP benefits were only for black people, and now that they're mad that their food stamps are being taken away too? What? Except I lived in the South, So I have seen this before. Matter of fact, my best friend, I met her in college and she was pregnant, okay? That little boy, sweetest little boy, but she was on like WIC and food stamps and healthcare and everything too, right? As she should be. She needed the help. She needed the assistance, okay? We were driving the car one day. She would not shut the fuck up. She was like, I'm so mad at people taking my tax dollars and blah, 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 and we shouldn't be paying for other people's healthcare and I don't want to pay for other people's food. And I finally go, girl, you know you're the other people, right? And she was like, huh? And I was like, the health insurance that made you be able to take your little boy to the doctor yesterday, I paid for that. The food that you eat that you put on your table, I paid for that. My tax dollars paid for that. Like, you are the people that you're talking about. How are you going to sit here and trash talk people when you are the people? Like, you have WIC, you have food stamps, and you have health insurance for you and your child. And you're going to sit here and trash talk people who use government aid. What? And anyways, they're mad now. They're mad now that their shit's being taken away too. Okay, did we all share the brain cell today, or what?
When I went to Walmart today, I was really taken by surprise because the greeter walked up to me and shook my hand, which never happens. And it was this old man, and he said, "Hey, young man, how are you doing today?" And I immediately perked up because he was just exuding kindness. And I was like, I'm good. How are you? And he's like, I'm good. It's always a good day to have a good day. And I was like, you know what? You're right. He said, I hope you have a good time shopping. And I said, I will. And I did. And as I walked around the store, I slowly started to notice that everybody was in a good mood. Normally, people are like bumping carts and hustling and bustling. But today, like, everyone was smiling and laughing with each other and like making jokes with strangers. And I couldn't help but feel it was that old man making everyone feel welcomed and invited in whenever they came in. And I thought it was such a good example of the domino effect, how one small gesture can have a really big impact, and making someone feel good can make another person feel good, and before you know it, the whole vicinity is in a good mood. And I told him when I was leaving the store, I was like, I think you single-handedly put the whole store in a good mood today. I think you need a raise. And he was like, I don't need a raise. I like what I do. And I think it's important to like what you do, even if it's not your dream. And I thought that was so simple, but just really meaningful.
I hate that medical students and medical doctors have had to get on the internet to say that they either previously received or currently receive EBT benefits or SNAP benefits to help them get through their medical education as a way to make the SNAP program more palatable to the general public. And this is no shade to those creators because I've made the same points and have said the same things. There are medical students currently who use EBT benefits so that they can get the food they need to thrive. It is just so dystopian that we live in a time where we have to get online and say, no, even doctors, people who are doctors had to use EBT benefits rather than just saying, hey, I think everyone deserves to have access to affordable food. We, as the general public, should not support SNAP benefits because even doctors need it too. We should support it because it is the correct, the right, and the moral thing to support. People deserve to have access to food.
I was just having a conversation with somebody about the upcoming SNAP and WIC benefits getting cut for the month of November, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, you live under a very privileged rock. Anyway, this person asked, do you really want your tax dollars going to feed people who can't afford food? Yeah, no, that's exactly what I want, actually. Like, I think, personally, everybody deserves to eat, and I'm just a little bit confused how the same party who is forcing all of these babies to be born, these super cute babies deserve to live, but then they don't want to feed them. And they don't want to house them, and they don't want to give them health care. So then they're going to die anyway. They're going to die. Children are going to starve to death. And you're asking me if I think they deserve to eat. Personally, I think if you don't believe every person on the planet deserves food, you're an evil person. An evil, evil person. So I'm going to go feed my baby because I can afford it. And then I'm gonna go buy food for another person's baby because they can't afford it. And if you aren't doing that, whenever you have the means to do that, you are a terrible person. Anyway, I'm not gonna talk to that person anymore. Have a good day.
I don't actually believe that there's this giant group of people that are taking advantage of SNAP benefits and using it to have like 5-course lobster dinners and wasting it all on sugary snacks instead of like celery and carrots and beet juice. But even if there were people taking advantage of it, why are people only ever mad when poor people try and get a leg up over on the system? When a billionaire finds a way to pay zero taxes on their trillion-dollar business, it's like talked about in Forbes. It's like, here's all these loopholes that Jeff Bezos uses to avoid paying taxes on Amazon. Here's all these loopholes Elon Musk has where his income's actually reported as this when he's worth this, so he doesn't have to pay taxes. Here's how all these businesses took advantage of getting free PPP loans when they didn't need them. Here's this influencer who made millions of dollars then moved to this country because they had zero income tax. Like, there's all these ways that rich people get around the system. But the second poor people try and find these cracks, try and find loopholes, try and do anything to get just like a tiny leg up, it's a travesty.
I would never forget when I was younger, anytime we went through a storm, like a rough time in life, and we made it through, we would celebrate. Be happy that we made it. We still here, Lord. And my grandma, may she rest in peace, she would always say, why are y'all celebrating and not plotting and planning your next move? Because you never know when that storm might come back. With that being said, a lot of y'all was going through that storm just a week ago when you thought SNAP benefits, food stamps was gone. How am I going to have Thanksgiving? How am I going to provide for my kids? I ain't going to have no food on the table. We need those food stamps. That was your storm. But now you got your food stamps. They back. They on your card. You celebrating. Yeah, there's plenty of videos on the internet. Everybody's showing all the food on the shelves. People throwing in their shopping carts, overflowing with food. Y'all celebrating all the confetti in your eyes. All you can see is the money on your card. But you're missing that part up under that says you're going to have to reapply for your SNAP benefits. Yeah, the head of USDA just announced Thursday that everybody that gets food stamps, you got to reapply now due to alleged fraud. They received data back on 29 red states, and they said it is 186,000 deceased men, women, and children that received checks. She said, Brooke, the head of the Secretary of Agriculture, she said, we are going to rebuild this SNAP program and make sure that everybody that received food stamps can't live without them. Or, in her words, can't survive without them. Yeah, ain't nobody getting food stamps no more. If you can survive without them, that's out. They checking. She said, we rebuilding this program. She said, can you imagine when we get the data back from the blue states, what we gonna find? Stop celebrating. You need to be plotting and planning your next move. Because that storm coming back.
Every single person getting SNAP benefits is going to have to reapply because of the sheer amount of fraud that they have found in just the 29 states that have given them over information. Out of those 29 states, there was enough fraud that they found that everyone is going to have to reapply. I don't know how else you fix something. Like the fraud is so much. So they found just in 29 states alone, and these are going to be more red states, they found 186,000 names that were deceased that were receiving benefits. They also found in 29 states 500,000 people whose name is showing up twice. So the same name is getting 2 times the benefits. That's what they found in 29 states. Imagine how bad it is in all of the states. And it doesn't even tell us how long this has been happening. So how long have those people been deceased? How long have these people been getting, then these same names been getting double the benefits? We have no idea. So we know the individual numbers, but we don't know how long this has been happening.
Think about this. Before Joe Biden was president, we had around 17 million Americans that were receiving SNAP benefits every month. Since Joe Biden was president, now we have 42 million people who are receiving SNAP benefits each month. And I say people because 59% of the people that are receiving SNAP benefits are illegal immigrants. Joe Biden allowed millions upon millions of people to come into America illegally, and now we are paying for them. 59% of all the people receiving SNAP benefits every month are illegal immigrants. So we as taxpayers are funding them, giving them money so that they can go and buy groceries each month. We want to help people here in America, like single moms, Americans who need a little bit of extra help every month. We didn't vote to take care of illegal immigrants, but Joe Biden, he let all these people in. The Democrats held the government down for 43 days because they wanted to keep funding illegal immigrants. Illegal immigrants are their way to continue to stay in office. Perhaps if we stopped taking care of illegal immigrants, maybe they would stay in their own country. Let me know your thoughts on this one.
The contingency fund was spent. Part of the money for school lunch programs was spent. So the reason why they have been saying not to pay out the food stamp benefits is because they can't. It's because they couldn't. The contingency fund was gone. This information is right out of the Supreme Court ruling. And the worst part is that this money was already allocated. It's our tax dollars that were allocated to specific things, and they were used for something else, and we don't know what that something else is. Now, is it shocking that our tax dollars are being used for things that we don't know? No, but it is shocking how easy it is for them to hide it from us until a Supreme Court judge comes and blows up that whole facade. Ketanji Brown Jackson is a woman of the people. People questioned her original ruling as to why she would allow these SNAP funds to be delayed, but we all now know that was specifically so that we could find out where the funds were. I just think, and I can't help but think, what a hard time this government is going to have this tax season getting money from the American people. There are people left and right that are now filing exempt from taxes being taken out of their paychecks. And people who are self-employed, people who have to pay taxes at the end of the year, I don't anticipate people paying their taxes. I really don't. I wonder what their contingency plan for that is.